Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral Concept. We are here today with our special edition of the show, each and every weekend, listening in to your questions. We call them the Cabral HouseCalls, where I get to essentially read questions from people all around the world and give you my recommendations, my suggestions, and my take on your particular situation based on many decades of working with people just like you. Maybe not the same exact case, but usually pretty close in most scenarios. And of course, if there's something I haven't tackled before, I always share with you a different perspective of maybe how to look at it and who you'd be able to contact in order to get deeper information and probably a better answer as needed. So really love doing the show. It's one more way for me to try my best to be able to connect with as many people around the world as possible, because it's funny, even though we have this whole online and virtual world that we're all now a part of, there's just something that, being able to listen to one question at a time, one person, be able to see someone still over video or anything like that. And that's why I still love live events. I still won't want to ever stop doing those, is because it is great to be able to still connect with one person at a time. Yes, I love our community. I love being able to do a social media post, a podcast, whatever it might be, but I also want to know that there's someone on the other side that may be able to benefit from this information, and even if it's not for them, that maybe they could share this information with someone out there that could use it, that would find great benefit and could possibly change the trajectory of their life, just like when I found my answers many years ago. So, I love doing these questions. I don't plan on ever stopping, and now that we are 4+ years of each and every weekend answering your questions, I'm looking forward to today's show. So let's dive right in. Today's first question is from Sandra. It's coming in on April 27th. Hi, Doc. Thanks for your amazing podcast. I have a question relating to lifting weights as a female, which I love to do at the gym, and I like to lift heavy. I, however, have heard many horror stories about how lifting heavy for women can cause the cervix and pelvic floor to loosen and even lead to things such as prolapse later down the line. I know that lifting weights is said to have many health benefits, but is it really true that there is a weakening and loosening of that area, both for my health as well as my sense of confidence with my partner? I would want to avoid this at all costs. If this is the case, what would you recommend? Only lifting weights or doing kegel exercises to counteract? Many thanks in advance. Okay, I've been in the weightlifting game for many, many years. Although I don't lift as hard and heavy as I used to, I'm still training 4 times a week and really enjoying it. My workouts are more towards kettlebells and bands and swings and chin-ups and all that great stuff. I mean, I use sandbags, I use a mace, I use like all sorts of fun stuff. And although I still do squats and deadlifts and of course my Romanian deadlifts and all those great things, I just don't lift as hard and heavy as I used to. And it's not that I don't love it. I absolutely do love it, actually. But I do look to my future, and I look to having this body for another, hopefully, 60+ years. And so when I look at that, I say to myself, okay, I don't want, because I've helped a client recover from knee replacement surgery, hip replacement surgery, rotator cuff repair. And I've partially torn my rotator cuff in the past. I've had torn Achilles tendon. I've had multiple injuries from sports and from weightlifting. So as every year progresses, I just say, I feel good. I'm happy with the shape that I'm in. I'd like to put on another 10 more pounds of muscle, but then at the same time, I wouldn't feel probably as light and energetic, and I'd have to train harder, and I'd have to eat more protein, and okay, is that really worth it? And when I look at it in terms of health, I say, No. So I look at things a little bit differently now. And what I would say to you is that, again, been doing this for many, many years. Again, I can't tell you for sure, but there's most likely not going to be any pelvic floor dysfunction with training moderate to heavy, not maxing out every single week, in most women, especially not within like a couple years or so of training. However, some women are more prone to others. There's no doubt about that. And it's one of those things that there is a happy medium. So it's like you actually have to realize for you what the load is that you are putting on the pelvic floor, or we just call it pelvic organ or pelvic organ prolapse it can lead to. So what I want you to do is like, how much strain is really involved? And that's how I actually gauge my workouts now. What is the level of strain? The more strain, well, the more strain there is in the nervous system, the more strain there is on ligaments and tendons. And in this case, we're talking about is the pelvic floor. But I'll tell you this, that contracting and squeezing, and you can call them kegel exercises if you want, but what I want to talk about is this, is that all of that is beneficial. Weightlifting is beneficial for women. We're really just talking about heavy squats and other types of exercises. Again, been doing this a while. When you load the upper body and do heavy squats, it could potentially lead to some of the issues that you're speaking about. But at the same time, you're going to have a healthier pelvic floor if you do exercise and you do weightlifting. So it's more just kind of finding that middle ground. And I think you can still lift heavy. I just have to look at the level of strain. And unless you're a competitor, that you might just not need to do that. So hopefully that helps a bit. And yes, I have no problem with you doing the Kegel exercises as well. Just I don't know about counteract, but certainly it's going to help when you are under a lot of strain. All right, Kelly's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I recently had a comprehensive stool analysis done, and it showed alpha hemolytic strep, Enterobacter, complex and no growth of lactobacillus, as well as candida and many microscopic yeasts. I want to get rid of it all the bad stuff. Is it okay to have any amount of alpha hemolytic strep? What is the best way to get rid of it, particularly the strep? Thanks for your help. Okay, so, not everybody knows this, but, legally, and I wouldn't do it anyway, we're not allowed to treat or diagnose or say that we're curing any disease. So I just want to mention that, straight out of the gates. What anyone in natural health does, and anybody who's been practicing clinically, meaning like working with, as a clinician with patients or wellness clients for many years, is you begin to understand that your job is to simply help the patient or wellness client in front of you put their body in a place to heal itself. So what I do is I recognize there are toxicities in the body. And in this particular case, we're talking with Kelly, and we're talking about bacteria and yeast overgrowing. Those are toxicities, okay? So they shouldn't be overgrown in the gut, or they shouldn't be overgrown in terms of, it depends what type of strep we're talking about, but let's say in just the oral cavity. They shouldn't be there. And then their body has certain deficiencies. So I help to simply bring up the deficiencies with nutritional supplements, good whole food, digestive enzymes, etc. And then I help to remove those toxicities. So, my go-to would be the CBO protocol, Kelly, in your position, as well as the citricidal drops. And again, our team is happy to share that with you, especially if you ran your stool and your bacteria and parasite stool test through Equilibrium Nutrition. But what we want to look at is, in terms of this particular type of strep that you're talking about, well, a lot of people don't know this either, but E. coli and certain forms of strep, all of those are natural parts of the body. We need them. We need yeast. We just don't want it to be overgrown. That candida is supposed to be in your body, but on a stool test, the one that we use, it should either say none or it should say rare, and that's okay. Like a small amount is fine. And even when it says none or not available or you just don't see any growth, it's still there. It's just not in large amounts, and that's totally fine. So what we do to help people rebalance their gut is the CBO protocol, plus the citricidal drops, and then we use the CBO finisher after that. So feel free to ask any additional questions, but that's exactly what we do to help rebalance a healthy gut. Lucy's up next. Hi, I was wondering what you would suggest for someone who has to train first thing in the morning. What would you eat? Cardio versus strength. How do you make it work? What should you eat? Cardio versus strength. I think you're asking, what should you eat? Cardio versus strength. Is it different for men and women? What about late nights also? Say you finish at 9 p.m. and you need to go to bed by 10. Is it worth eating? For example, Using myself, I train strength cardio in the morning, spend the day at work, university, and then train BJJ, which is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, in the evening. For athletes, should they follow 3 meals a day and how to make that work? Thank you. You know what? This is a really great question, and I've answered it before as to whether you should work out on an empty stomach. So I would love you to check out that podcast. I don't know that I'll be able to find that show right off the top, but let's just go to stevencabral.com/podcasts. I'll do it with you. We're going to scroll down to that little search box, okay? And in the search box, we're going to say first thing in the morning. Kind of a big key phrase, but let's see if we find it that way. Okay, we got a bunch of shows popping up. And you know what? It's a topic that I haven't talked about in a while, but I've definitely done shows on how many carbs you should eat after workout based on trying to lose weight, maintain weight, or gain weight. I've done shows on whether you should eat before your workout or not. But you know what? Why don't I do a follow-up to this? So here's the thing. I am recording this a few days before, 4 or 5 days before, and I still haven't done the training Thursday. So interesting. Here's what I will do. By the time you listen to this podcast, believe it or not, this is episode 1590. I haven't recorded 1588 yet because I wanted to answer some questions today. Just a little look behind the curtain here. I'm at the end of my day. I've been able to talk with a lot of people today, and I wanted to answer some additional questions. So I opened my Ask Cabral big worksheet here with all of the questions that have come in. So it was actually then on episode 1588 because I am going to record a specific podcast for you, Lucy, and I was actually looking for a fresh topic for this week for my training Thursday, and now we've got it, and I'm going to put when to eat around workouts, all right? So you'll have already seen it, and thank you for the question. So that will be episode 1588, and we're going back in time. That was 2 days ago now. Okay, thanks very much, Lucy, and you'll get it right there. 1588 will be the show to look for. Today is episode 1590. If you want to follow along with the questions, just head on over to stevencabral.com/1590. The next question is from Simon. Simon writes in, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. Do you know if ammonium chloride found in salty licorice is bad for you? I am particularly interested in any impacts on gut health." All right, so let's take a look at this and let's actually break down what ammonium chloride is for you. So when we look at the chemical compounds of ammonium chloride, we're essentially looking at a salt. And in this case, not an alkaline salt, but actually an acidifying salt. So in this case, it might be used as an actual preservative in the licorice that you're eating, the salty licorice. Certainly the chloride is the salt part of it, just like sodium chloride would be an NaCl, where ammonium chloride, the ammonium chloride, I think it's NH. So I believe it's NH for ammonium, NaCl. And what we're talking about here, though, is an irritant and an aggravant. So the only time I've ever heard of ammonium chloride really being used would be as like almost like for swimming pools. And I know that it's an irritant to the air ways, so breathing it in for sure with ammonia. I think they've actually used it before in a inhalant-based solution for people to break up mucus in the lungs. I believe, again, don't quote me on that. So we'll put it this way. It's not something that I would put it into my body. I don't think that that's a chemical that I would want to ingest. Once, if you have it one time, no big deal, but it's certainly not something that I would be ingesting if it were me. So Simon, hopefully that helps. Carrie's up next. I just completed your IHP Level 1 program, and I'm moving on to IHP Level 2. I love all that you're teaching me to heal myself and others. I'm now repurposing my life with a focus of wellness. Oh, it says you're 58 years old and female and retired 3 years ago from a very stressful career. Thanks to you, I've learned and am implementing the de-stress protocol for myself and my husband. We're both at our perfect weight and feel amazing. That's the good news. My issue is that my cholesterol numbers remain high because of genetics. Total cholesterol of 332, LDL of 245. I have a 0 calcium score, clear carotid arteries, perfect EKG, yet my cardiologist, who's a great doctor, insists on statins every year. My dad died of heart disease and my mother had quad bypass surgery. What can I do to maintain heart health for life without statins? Thank you for sharing. Added, I was able to collect my high cholesterol, ApoE33, My Cabral labs show an omega-3 of 5.5 with a ratio of 7.6. Calcium is 120, magnesium is 5. Other blood work good, thyroid numbers and homocysteine of 7. Okay, well, I can't read labs on the Cabral HouseCalls. I love reading labs, you know that, but it's not fair to all of the people in our private practice as wellness clients where we go over labs. So I can't go over that specifically, but I see that you have high cholesterol. You're not an ApoE genotype that's more prone to cardiovascular disease. So that's a good thing, but it doesn't mean that you can't get cardiovascular disease. So what do we need to do? Well, first, your omega-3 score is good, but not great. So we certainly want to improve that. Now, again, I can't give you specific treatments and all those great things, but if it was me and that was my score, I'd be using 2 soft gels of the omega-3 support every day or 1 teaspoon. I would also, if you're not vegan, increase omega-3 fish in the diet. I would be doing most likely a little bit less red meat, especially if it's not grass-fed or grass-finished, meat in general. I would follow more of a Mediterranean-based diet. I would certainly be using magnesium, most likely Adrenal Soothe as well. I'd figure out, again, I understand the high cholesterol. You may have familial hypercholesterolemia, which is the medical name for the genetic high cholesterol. But the truth is, a lot of people have high cholesterol and a lot of people can bring it right down. So it's not just you. I had high cholesterol at 18 years old, and it doesn't mean that, I'm just trying to say when I share that with you is that my body was a mess at a young age, and I'm twice as old now, and mine is better, So I think there's still hope for everybody, even if you have a tendency towards higher cholesterol. And so I'd really work on that. I would really work the process. Your homocysteine looks good, but your magnesium's not, in ratio. Your omega-3 isn't where it should be. So there's still much you can do for sure. I'm glad that you are in overall great health. Super happy to hear that. And I will be coming out with a high cholesterol based mini course. I have many, many mini courses coming out in the future, and I hope to launch those the end of this year. Super excited about that because it just goes in depth on one topic. What if you're dealing with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, thyroid issues, etc.? So I'm just going to do one on each thing and just try to, the reason why I came up with this is because I love working one-on-one with people. I love reading labs, and I read hundreds of labs every single week, but at the same time, I want to be able to work with more people and help more people. So I'm going to put it all into these specific courses with all protocols, etc. Anyway, that will be coming, but I think hopefully I've given you a little bit of an inkling as to where to move in that right direction, and I'm sure you'll do and already get a head start on that. Okay, let's do one more question. This one's from Alex. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I'm so grateful to have discovered you and your endless wealth of knowledge. Thank you for caring and giving all that you do. I have this friend who's 22 years old and has come to me with all these symptoms and imbalances she can't seem to figure out. Nor can any of her doctors give her a solution except to go see a neurologist. She says she's tired all the time, never has any energy. She's constantly dizzy. She also drinks lots of water, has brain fog and headaches. She started to try to exercise and can't seem to keep her energy up long enough to finish a workout she normally would have been perfectly okay doing. She used to be on anxiety medication, but is now only taking Vyvanase and Sprintec. She also has gained a lot of weight the last years and says she's tried to change her diet, although I don't know to what extent, and nothing has helped. Also, she has frequent memory loss, and after eating, her stomach always hurts. I know this is a lot, but if you have any advice on how to help her feel better in any way, I'd be so grateful. I've seen her when she was healthy and much happier, and I so badly want to help her in that way again. Okay. Alex, thank you for writing in. You're a great friend, and we work with so many people like your friend every day. So I'm going to give you a couple places to start. All right. The first one is she could be experiencing what's called POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. The second is she might be experiencing myalgic encephalitis, also called myalgic encephalomyelitis. And the two often go hand in hand, ME and POTS. And the reason is that over time, when someone's been anxious for a very long period of time and stressed for a very long period of time, what happens is their blood pressure continues to drop and drop and drop, because what happens was initially their blood pressure was high because they were producing all of these mineral corticoids from stress. And that basically means that the body will hold sodium and then it will eventually dump it. And after that, you have lower blood pressure levels. So exercise, they call it exercise intolerance. And many people with POTS, such as I had, and ME, such as I had, are not able to exercise very well. Now I'm happy to say that I can exercise well. So all of these things can be overcome. She could be very low in electrolytes, not just sodium. And the way to really get help, truly to get help, is to run something like the Big Five over at Equilibrium Nutrition, or at least to run the least I would want to run is the starter kit, which is the Candida Metabolic and Vitamins test, and it includes the Minerals and Metals test. Okay, that's a must. Then the third one, which I also consider a must, is the Stress Hormones, Mood, and Metabolism test. That will look at thyroid, adrenals, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA. It will look at vitamin D, thyroid as T4, T3, all of those the free form, TSH, and TPO. And then it will look at insulin and hemoglobin A1C. All right, love those. I would run those for sure. And we'll look at our gut, we'll look at our vitamin levels, we'll look at our mineral levels. It's going to give those answers. You need to get into what the root causes are. You need to get deep on what is going on. So that's the ultimate best way that myself or any practitioner would be able to help your friends. So you're a great friend for writing in. I hope that this message resonates. And of course, I would love to be able to help my team and I in any way possible. So thank you, everyone. That's our time today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If this was helpful, please do feel free to share this information. It's not my information. It's not yours. It's all of ours. Let's share this knowledge with anyone out there who needs the information. And of course, tomorrow I will be back answering more of our community's questions. Take care. Hope you're enjoying the weekend. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.